Morning. I'd like to welcome you to the Tuesday, February 14th meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Okay, our first order of business, opening and reading of bids, letters of interest. We have one today for the county lobby remodeling. Bid opening.
Bree Roberts with County Procurement. Office is here on the 7th floor of this building. It looks like we have 2 total bids. So first being Larison Danielson Construction Company Incorporated, 302 Tyler Street, LaPorte, Indiana, 46350.
How many do you have?
We have 2 total bids.
Two total bids?
This way. And base bid being $243,830. Again, that was Larson Danielson. Hope I'm saying that right. Second bid coming from Gibson Lewis LLC, 1001 West 11th Street in Mishawaka, 46544. Base bid being $261,600. And again, that is for Gibson Lewis LLC. Were there any bidders who submitted a bid or wish to submit a bid, which I did not read aloud?
Is there any chance we can get the alternate?
Mike?
Go ahead.
All right, so again, this is Gibson Lewis, just reading alternate. Alternate 1 bid for Gibson Lewis, $24,900. Alternate 2, $20,400 even. Alternate, oh, I'm sorry. Alternate 2 was $19,700. Alternate 3, $20,400. Alternate 4, $2,100. So that would be 4 total alternates. And going back to Larson Danielson. Alternate 1 bid, $34,173. Alternate 2 being $14,572. Alternate 3 being $20,843, and alternate 4 being $3,131.
Thank you.
No problem. Once again, were there any bidders who have submitted a bid or which wish to submit a bid that I did not read aloud? Seeing none, we would ask the commissioners to turn these bids over to both the Department of Procurement as well as Creative Design Solutions for tabulation and future award.
Questions? We have a motion.
Motion to that effect.
Second.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Aye. Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is the Commissioners and accounts payable documents. We have a motion.
Approval. Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is resolution R2C 2023, transitioning the residents of Portage Manor. Comments first? Comments? Ordinarily, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just would like to postpone the vote to close the Portage Manor until a community impact survey has been done. to see the total cost of losing Portage Manor. So I'd like to postpone our vote today and get more information about it.
Before we take a vote on that, I would like to change the rules and allow for some public comment prior to the vote. Ordinarily, we wait till the end for public comment, but I think this warrants allowing people to speak now. Does anybody wish to make a statement prior to voting on the motion that was?
Do you want to handle Deb's motion first?
Or
It's up to you. Public comment, 3 minutes. Please keep it to the 3 minutes. It's not a dialogue. It's just to receive information from the commissioners. Mr. Caruso, would you like to start us off?
I think we should have Deb's motion first to postpone it.
It's up to Carl.
Okay. Did you make a motion?
Well, I said I could make that a motion. I just said I'd like to do that. So I could make that motion to postpone the vote, to close our Portage Manor.
No second. The motion fails. Move to public comment.
Does this take away, I've got plenty to say today.
No, we'll
Does
have.
this take away
we'll
from
have-
my 3 minutes at the end?
This is only germane to the specific item that's up for discussion, which is the Portage Manor resolution. If you have comment on that specifically, you're welcome to comment now. If not,
I do.
We'll have-
And it occurred to me earlier this week, or this week, past weekend. So 305 East Compton Street in Carlisle. It occurred to me this week, that this sure looks a lot, the handling of this, of Portage Manor with the disabled, with the elderly who can't care for themselves. I know the discarded of society. Many people want to look the other way as they go by the area. It sure looks to me like this is being handled much the way the brownfields, the redevelopment of the brownfields is being handled. We'd rather not look at those brownfields along Sample Street in that corridor. And we want to go develop these new areas out here in New Carlisle. We don't want to pay any attention or invest any money cleaning that up. We want all the new stuff. So we want to bring in new business. We want to bring in new residents and forget those old people and those disabled people out there at Portage Manor. They need to be attended to before we move on to something else, just like we really need to take care of the brownfields before tearing up new greenland over in New Carlisle area. Thank you.
Robin Chalonar, 25612 Shoreline Court, South Bend, Indiana. I am former administrator at.
Hello?
I have a privilege to work at Portage Manor. Started there as a medication aide, passing medications, and fell in love with a group of individuals who fall through the cracks and do not have other resources. So in the resolution, it mistakenly talks about having, other resources within the community, day support, HUD housing, section 202, which serves 62 and older with some services. It talks about waiver A&D, which does not accommodate a vast majority of the residents at Portage Manor, and not just the ones that are there now, but the ones that are to come. There is cracks in the system, and that is where the county home has served and has done a wonderful job the last 16 years, something, right? It's a beautiful building. I believe strongly that with a $9 million, maybe it's gone up now because that study was done a few years ago when I was still there. And as we know, it's no better time to build than now because prices just continue to go up. We had work with the state of Indiana to increase the revenue based off of that. I keep hearing about bathrooms. There was opportunity to create bathrooms because in that 9 million also built the infrastructure, which needs to happen at about 4 million, which is the pipes, which are original to the building, which is amazing that they've lasted this long. But when they were going to do that renovation, they were going to stack the bathrooms and make the most out of updating the piping, the sewer and the water piping, as well as HVAC and a lot of updates to the windows. which needed to happen. Other than that, the building is sound. We do have the area in the back that need to be addressed, but I had petitioned IPG to help with that, and they kind of acted like they were going to. We had a lot of talks, we set a lot of tables. I believe Steve Dalton was involved in those. This does not have to happen like this. I think the best way is to save the building and to save the mission. It can be done, and that's the most effective and prudent way to move forward. If it cannot be saved for whatever reason that we don't understand, maybe that land is valuable to somebody. I don't understand why we're not doing this. But if there's no way to save the building, then we must save the mission. We have to save the mission of this. We are the only licensed county home in the state of Indiana. We are the largest. And the state of Indiana was looking at us. I sat down with the DA, FSSA. Frank Fotia was in those meetings, and others. And they looked at us as a state model of how we cared for people in our county. And we did such a good job. We got through the pandemic and overspent a very tough year for not just Portage Manor, but all of healthcare, and overspent by about $83,000 that year. Not 800,000.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mike.
Well, thank you. Is this okay place to stand? I'm Matt Costello, the Director of Logan Protective Services. I live at 120 North Notre Dame Avenue in South Bend. Logan Protective Services help vulnerable adults with developmental disabilities. We are legal guardian of 4 residents who have lived happily at Portage Manor for many years. I pray that Portage Manor's closure can be avoided. I heartily endorse Robin's description of how it could be saved, particularly in that building, if not the mission. So I think while it's true that it costs the county a lot of money to run Portage Manor because it doesn't get federal and state funds, I do think that it is a cost-efficient place overall. They do a remarkable job for the money they get. If true, in addition to this being tragic news for those who live there contentedly, it's a disaster for vulnerable people who are disabled and are caught up in emergency crises. We could get people into Portage Manor who were in exploitive, neglectful, or abusive situations. We can get them into Portage Manor within a couple of days. Now, where will these people go now? I wonder if with more community engagement, utilizing the combined strength of governmental, business, philanthropic, and nonprofit professionals, we could have come up with solutions to provide similar, though not exactly the same kind of services that are at Portage Manor. For example, the nursing home Golden Living Fountain View had a completely empty wing last time I was there. Could similar services been offered there? Could we develop new group homes to meet the unique needs of the people at Portage Manor? So before this brutal announcement of closure was made, I think a committee of social service professionals from places like Oak Lawn, Adult Protective Services, Real Services, the Bureau of Developmental Disabilities, and my own Logan Protective Services should have been formed to brainstorm as to how we can meet the needs of these people and what we might need from the county and the state to make it work. I'm afraid that Danny, the social worker at Portage Manor, and Courtney, the administrator, have been given an impossible task to find adequate placement for these people. After all, the reason why people are at Portage Manor is that they were in a time of crisis and there was no place else for them to go. It's not too late to develop a committee of this sort, the kind I mentioned. Otherwise, I fear, even if given time, maybe many, if not most of these dear people will wind up being transferred to inadequate, distant places where their long-term needs will not be met. Thank you.
Mike McManus, 51940 Lilac Road, South Bend. What concerns me the most about this is that, once again, this is a demonstration to the citizens of the total dysfunction of government. Whoever wrote this resolution on which you are about to throw people out onto the streets wrote a fairy tale. You suggest that you wrote this because of that you're closing Portage Manor because of a post on Facebook That post on Facebook simply lists all of the things that have been proposed and asked for use by the ARP money, nothing else. Then you suggested you were forced to do this because the county council has refused, those are your words, to act on this. That's simply false. And so you're suggesting that because they didn't do something, which is false, there was a lot of distress at Portage Manor. Your solution was to come and to tell the people of Portage Manor to alleviate their distress was, we're gonna throw you out of your home. That's our solution. You should be ashamed of yourself. The only one who seems to have any concern or any compassion for these people is Dr. Fleming. And you, Mr. Maxmeyer, you saw thousands of people just this last Sunday stand and cheer for cancer survivors, to give them support. And you don't have the compassion to do this in an honorable, upfront, transparent manner. Shame on you, sir. And shame on you, Mr. Dieter, for joining in on this.
I'd like to say something too, in regards to Portage. My name's Jack Daly. I live at 217 West Michigan Street, New Carlisle. And I also, I'm a former director for Protective Services at Logan. There are people who can talk of what it's like on the road today. What I can talk about is keeping up the agreements that you make with people in the past. I know that the ground changes under us every day, but you've made agreements and you assured these people they would have a place. Now you're telling them they don't have one, and that is dishonorable. When they say preserve the mission, that's newspeak. It's preserve the people. These are people. Whatever you want to term, whatever newspeak term you've got going on, the buzzword. These are people. It's a shameful thing you're doing. That's all I got to say.
Elisha Fiesel, 639 Holton Road in LaPorte. I've worked in South Bend for many years, since '09, for Historic Preservation Commission, and now I'm no longer working with city or county government. But for many years, almost a decade, I worked with Portage Manor administrators, and most recently with Robin Challenor and other county and city officials to discuss the topic of the building itself is really my mission. I'm speaking a little differently than the mission of the people, which I completely agree with and respect all of that, but I'm coming from the point of view from the built environment and our cultural heritage. This building, Portage Manor, as Robin stated, is around 116 years old, and it has been in function as a county home for all of those years. Turns out in 2014, Indiana Landmarks named it on their most endangered list. And on this date, it's actually the only county home in all of Indiana. All 92 counties had a county home, but of those 92, it's the only county home that's still serving its original purpose. And I believe that right there is honorable and something worthy of celebrating. And if you were to consider the building itself, in addition to the mission, I think that you could be recognized as a leader and one of a kind for having that designation as being the only county home of all of the 92 county homes that are still in use and functioning under its original mission in its original building. And I know that in the time that I helped with different studies, trying to enlighten staff in the county of what the needs are of the building, we had received grants from the National Trust for Historic Preservation because the building and its grounds are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. That's a designation that is worthy of keeping, at least exploring, and not just discarding and throwing in the trash, because you already have the support of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They gave us emergency grant funding to study the feasibility and specifically the area in the back that was in need of immediate construction because it was in danger. And there were engineers that came in and looked at it at that time. I've been somewhat disconnected for the last couple of years, mainly because I just felt like all of that work was done in vain. And I would hope that you would at least pay attention to what has been done and thought through and all of the history that's gone into the attempt to understand the building's needs and in respect to what the residents' needs are as well. Thank you.
Mark Anzarite, St. Joseph County Council, District G. I come to you today, urging you to plead with you to support Dr. Fleming and her attempt and maybe reconsider her motion to postpone the vote on this. Very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in how this resolution was crafted. I believe there are a lot of false statements in it. Just to give a little history on it. We did have a presentation by Mike Mish on January 24th at our council meeting. It was after our council business was over. It was not an official portion of our meeting. Every month after our council committee meeting, we have special presentations by all sorts of groups. This was a presentation by Mr. Mish, who's a former board member, Mr. Mish.
Right.
Former board member of Portage Manor, and who's also the county commissioner and the county's legal counsel. He made a presentation to us, laid out some options for us. And at the end of that presentation, that's usually how our presentations go. We know that at that point, we've been given information, we will need to act on it at some point in the future. In the resolution, you state that since the county council, the fiscal body, had not agreed to fund the construction of a new Portage Manor or requested further research into the situation, you guys are being forced to announce that you're going to relocate residents as a result of our inaction. We haven't had time to take any action yet. We still have to have public meetings and public input. That's our process. It always has been. So I know myself, one of 9 council members, I don't want to speak for anybody else. We have not been contacted. We have not been asked to engage in a conversation or dialogue with the commissioners further since the last presentation to discuss the future of Portage Manor. We may consider some of these options. There's a lot of options on the table, and there's some good ideas. There may be even more ideas like what Ms. Fiesel might have mentioned. So I would ask you wholeheartedly if you would please consider taking Dr. Fleming's advice and postponing the vote on this today. Give us some time to work with you on this, because I think all of us want to engage and be a part of the process. I know I do. I'm assuming the rest of the council members do too. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Diana Hess, I agree with my colleague here, Mr. Tanzeray, and I support Commissioner Fleming's vote to a motion to delay the process. We were supposed to discuss this at our February 28th committee meetings. That was the goal. And when the press release came out last week stating that the council had made this decision, that was false. The council itself, as a body of the whole, had not made that decision. So I don't know if there were certain councilors involved in the decision, but let's just say all 9 councilors were not involved in that decision. And I'd like to postpone this till we have further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Burkowski, 513 Sky Valley Court, Osceola, Indiana. I was the director of nursing at Portage Manor. I worked there for 11 years total. I would like to say that I listened to the presentation that was made at the end of January. And I heard a lot of things that are not truthful, and would like for it to be known that it says that the residents cannot be treated humanely, and that is certainly not true. And I take in the resolution that it says the humane treatment is not true. We served lots of people very well with very little. If you look at our state surveys by the Indiana Department of Health, we went deficient free several years in a row. People came in with complaints. They were unsubstantiated. That is public record and can be seen. I can tell you that I have gone to hotel rooms for people who are homeless, brought them to Portage Manor, provided them good housing and food where they had nowhere else place to go. We have people there that cannot go anywhere else. They will go to the wrong places. There is somebody that was discharged last month that is now in the jail system, back hooked on meth, and is probably going to die because they don't have this resource. We need community support. They are treated well, and you can do it. I never had agency in that building for staffing. It can be staffed. don't need security. We never had homeless people sleeping in the building. Or cops being called. We worked with our local Oak Lawn and Logan, and we did our due diligence and we took great care of people. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room wish to speak? First. Online, I see Cheryl Nixon's hand raised.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Cheryl Nix, 17901 Sable Ridge Drive, Clay Township. Thank you so much, Commissioner Fleming, for making a motion to postpone this decision. I wrote the commissioners, I wrote all of you, I believe it was last Friday, asking that we have a public hearing, including a Q&A, and we form a task force to study solutions that would allow Portage Manor as it is to remain open. What I'm hearing today from several people is that there are solutions out there. And if we collaborate, work together, I think we could find them. I do believe that the article in the South Bend Tribune was upsetting for a number of reasons, not the least of which was a woman weeping when she heard the announcement from Mr. Baxmeyer that the Portage Manor was closing before a vote had been taken by the council. But I also was bothered when one resident referred to a meeting months ago, this is from the Tribune, asking, how did you go from assuring us that Portage Manor was not going to be closed in a meeting to debunk rumors that it was going to close? So I join in that resident's question. How did we go from everything's fine, don't worry, to now we're closing it? I would also like to remind everyone in the room and anyone online that the Republicans have been in control of the Board of Commissioners since 2013. So for the last 10 years, you've had control of the board, which means you've also had control of Portage Manor. And I want to know why for 10 years you haven't taken the necessary steps to ensure that this wonderful facility, the last one in existence in the state, could continue. Thank you.
Anyone else online wish to speak? Roy, your hand is raised.
Mary,
I'm sorry, Mary.
Hello, my name is Mary Countryman, 52959 Timothy Road, New Carlisle, Indiana. I would like to say, please show some empathy. Don't behave like a bully. It's bad enough that too many physical things are discarded like trash as if their physical use is done and treated as if there is an endless supply of resources available. But when people, human beings, are being discarded as if they are an object worn out with no value left, that is wrong and disgusting to treat human beings this way. The residents of Portage Manor deserve, at the very least, a motion and more time, if not an overall resolution for the residents to stay in their home. Please have a heart, have some compassion for the Portage Manor residents. Thank you.
Roy, you're next.
All right, Roy Sines, 426 South Meade Street. Commissioners and Counselor, I am a power of attorney for a relative at Portage Manor. This resolution is an abomination. It's riddled with apparent misinformation and reflects your complete disregard for transparency and care of life. I agree with the gentleman from Logan Protective Services, Dr. Fleming, the council members, and the others regarding the need for community input. I've stressed this from the beginning of the process, but this entire process has been riddled with lack of common decency, disrespect for individuals with disabilities, people with mental health issues, your employees, public input, and community collaboration. This process you've done is less than the minimum due the citizens of St. Joseph County. You would have been respected more if from the beginning you said, we're taking the home and the acreage and don't care about the value of human lives of those with diminished capacity. The process is been done mostly behind closed doors, which is the very reason that the community has complete distrust for the commission, and now the reason we have less respect. The people entrusted you to give you the voice of the very people you're fixing to kick out of their homes. Your failure to find a viable solution is either a reflection of your incompetence or your intent to deceive the public, the residents, the families, and the employees. There are no words to describe the emotional pain you have thrust upon these poor souls at Portage Manor. The hope of a warm bed, a roof over your head, warm meals, and the staff to help you with your medications, finances, and transportations has been crushed, not only for them, but also for the next 100, 200, 300 individuals that would have stepped through the doors of Portage Manor coming off of the streets of Michiana. You're eliminating the most valuable resource in the community for those who would normally slip through the cracks. If this is your legacy, shame on you. You were given a gift that has been in the community for over 100 years and are attempting to destroy it. This has been noted of the voices that were once in favor of Portage Manor that are now silent. I wish you, if you proceed to close Portage Manor, as many restless nights as the residents of Portage Manor are going to have. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I'd like to say something. I'm Sarah Zolman, 25315 Kathy Drive. I worked at Portage Manor for only a short 2 years, from 2019 to 2021. And in that 2 years, I got to know these people, and I'm sorry, this is very emotional for me, which is why I wasn't going to speak at first. I've had to listen to voicemails of residents calling and asking, what's going to happen with us? Can you help us? What can we do? These are real people. And it's such a great community. Like, unless you've been there, you can't even understand. It is a family. It is a 30-year-old helping a 75-year-old. It is a 75-year-old becoming best friends with a 42-year-old. It doesn't make any sense, but it works. I don't know how it works with a heart. These people have given so much of their life there. I gave 2 years, and this is how I feel. I can only imagine. My heart is breaking for them. I am so disappointed in you people. Besides that, I'm so disappointed. You've been there. You've met these people. I don't understand. There is no other place like this. There's going to be people on the street. And I urge the community, and I urge any of you who have not been there, go over there. Apparently it's open doors for anybody. So go over, except if you're a former employee, go over there and meet. Go over there and see the people. Please postpone the vote.
Seeing nobody else online wishing to speak. Deb, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want you all to know that I'm Dr. Deb Fleming, County Commissioner. I've been a dentist for over 30 years and I just love helping people. And I've really, really, really enjoyed helping with Robin when we were there helping, trying to update and get things done, because I just love helping people there and how we can get people happier and healthier and everything. And then my mom, oh my gosh, she would donate there and she goes, Deb, make sure you maintain that. That's such a good place. Yes. And I donated, my mom donated, and we certainly loved working there. And I just, gosh, I love to help, trying to help people that are homeless. I love to help people that have health issues, drug addiction. So I just try to do that. So I'm just trying to hope that this can continue it, because again, it's been such a good place. And my grandma was so sad that other counties years ago had shut it down because she had family members that had been in such a good, I'm so sorry that she had put that down, but at least we have it here in St. Joseph County. Oh yes, good. least helping, that's my family, that's what was said, so that's why I'm so happy, and I mean, my heart is breaking down that it's shutting down. Oh, I get so sad, but I just wanted to be happy and move forward, and so people can feel good about it, so. I'm sorry, that's just me, so.
Thank you. First, thanks everybody for coming and voicing an opinion. Contrary to most of the speaker, or if you rate us, say we're not caring, incompetent, people are not being thrown out on the street. Mr. McManus, okay? There was no refused word in the ordinance resolution. We all are elected as are the council people here to help the community. And since I've been here for over 2 years now, but at the end of the day, other than probably Sarah and Robin, I probably spent more time than anybody in this room combined at Portage Manor. I spent 3.5 weeks picking up 700 bags of trash, vermin, feces, dead dogs in cages, needles and all that because of the fire and explosion when homeless people were in the woods cooking meth. We have done an exorbitant amount of work. Besides cleaning up the woods, we have went out there to cut the grass when they didn't have enough people and staff to do that. I took 120 pumpkins out there to the community. We had to come out because we did a tour of the place. The basement is a complete disaster. There's trash, garbage. The way some of the utilities are put up is ridiculous. So I had our archives come and take all the records. It looks like it's been thrown down there for 100 years. Tossed, not stacked, tossed into rooms. And all the other things we've cleaned up, we took about 3 months ago. Carl and I took signs because people were out hunting in the woods. So we don't need a resident who's walking on their paths to come out and get shot by some idiot and a blind who thinks he can hunt. So again, for everybody that wants to come after us, that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. But when you do it, know what you're talking about, okay? Dan, I don't think it's a good comparison to the brownfields, to the people there. That's okay, that's fine, but that's not the thing. Again, we have spent, and I'll let our attorney talk on that, along with Bill Shalio, if he wants to, looking at ways we can make this viable for everybody in the community, okay? One, for the people there. Like some of the employees there, the poor ladies have to do everybody's laundry, spend 5 hours doing that, then they have to go around the rest of the building and clean toilets and everything else. They're understaffed, underpaid, and that's an issue that we have to look at. That press release could have been made a lot better to explain all that. But at the end of the day, there were 3 options, and Mr. Catan's right, if you would read, number 1, all this stuff is subject to the approval of the council. So you guys can make that decision whenever you want. Okay, that's cool. Just a lot of misinformation, as one person said, that person put out. All of our meetings for this stuff, we have been, I think, 3 different companies we hired. We sent people into the building from another thing. How can we make this work? We've looked at all the funding sources. Our financial experts, Mr. Dalton this year, can explain how this is losing $800,000 a year. It's probably been run improperly for a quarter of a century. So we're looking to find suitable places for these people. We're not going to go say, go to the Knights Inn. I would never do that to anybody. We're going to find places for them to go. That's why hopefully the council, that's why the council hopefully will approve the funding that we can do that in the right way. So again,
I just want to say that 800,000 that you were gonna.
I'm talking, Deb.
I know, but.
I'm talking, Deb. I'm talking,
sorry.
Deb.
Yeah.
Thank you. So again, this is some of the stuff that you do in government. Again, the people who know me and whatever opinion you have, we're out here trying to make the best decision we can for the entire community. Again, I think it's ridiculous again that everybody wants to, we're not going to put them in a bag and wait for the bus and then you go somewhere. That's not going to happen. So that's ridiculous for anybody to insinuate that. So again, this is a decision we just didn't snap, and I will agree the press release, and Carl talked about that a little bit, was that was written poorly and that just got convoluted. But the moral of the story is we are always trying to find the best decision we can make with all the information we have. So that's all I got to say at this time, Mr. President. I want to add something before I say something.
Well, it wasn't 800,000, maybe 1,000.
So John Murphy, right? I can't think.
We're not having an open conversation, sorry.
The facts are right behind you, Mr. Mish.
Okay. I'd like to just add. Commissioner Jeter makes a good point regarding the press release. The word, it was, when we read it, it said that the decision had been made by the council, and that was wrong. We shouldn't have used the word decision, and I take responsibility for that. However, you have to look at the context of which that occurred. When we arrived at the office last Tuesday, the phones were ringing off the hook. There were emails regarding concerns from the residents and staff. The manor's closing. Where are we going to go? Where do we sleep tomorrow night? Had that not been posted, we had no intention of taking action last Tuesday. We had to ensure that the residents were assured, as Derek said a moment ago, it doesn't close tomorrow. This is a next step in a process. We had to reassure the staff that they had jobs. If you lose the staff, how do we care for the residents? I would note that one of the last homes that closed was in LaPorte County. And that took several years from the time it started, because you don't just say to the residents, you're out. You have to provide options. And we will follow that to the letter and make sure. But again, that is presupposing that the council doesn't want to take a different action. This is just the next step in the process, is to have this resolution. And if the council feels that we should take a different approach, that is their decision. I have nothing else to add. I'll move for approval. Motion's been made to approve resolution R2C 2023. Do we have a second? I will second it.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Aye. Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item, resolution R3C 2023, ratifying the special purchase of police vehicles.
1 second.
So much you got. Take care.
There's nobody from the county on there?
This was just a housekeeping resolution.
Bye-bye.
We had to put together a resolution to allow for the special purchasing authority to be used. We articulated at last meeting, but this resolution just cleans it up so Bree can put it in the appropriate paper file that you're required to keep by state statute. So this action has already been approved, but this resolution is to ratify the special purchasing power used.
But 3 cars that they were gonna get.
Correct, that's a house.
All right, I'll move to approve that.
I'll second that because I really like to help the police.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
I,
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next is resolution R4C 2023, remove council appointed RDC members. Any comments? Any other discussion? All right, I'll move for approval. Public want to speak on that one? We'll let it at the end. After the vote. You know, since we did it or the other one, we'll take comments now. We're gonna have comments regardless.
In regard to resolution R4C 2023, I urge you to not approve that resolution. I read the verbiage of that resolution when it came out to the public yesterday afternoon, noon. It was brought to my attention. I read that. I'm not aware of anybody on the St. Joseph County Council who has asked for you to remove the RDC members as is stated in the resolution. We posed the question to our council president. He has not responded back. We duly appointed these new members back in December of 2022. We duly appointed them proper way when their appointment period had ended from the previous year. And we appointed two members, reappointed two members to the redevelopment commission who what we have thought been doing a good job. One's a highly respected president of a local financial institution. One's a newly elected official who takes care of the marginalized in our community. So we thought they both brought a very unique perspective to the redevelopment commission. So we fully thought the council that was in place in December, we were within our power, we were within our right of reappointing those members. I was really taken aback when I saw that it's been a request by the St. Joseph County Council to remove those members from the RDC. I'm not aware of any communication between the council and the commissioners that has indicated that. And I would ask you not to remove those members as they have done a good job for the county. And I'd like to see them continue on the RDC commission. I'm Mark Tan's right, St. Joseph County Council.
Dan Caruso, 305 Conference Street, New Carlisle. On what Mark said, I am a regular attendee of the redevelopment commission meetings. I see how those guys work together. They're very cohesive. Each of them kind of specializes in a different area. In my case in particular, what I'm always after a lot is the IEC development area. And Jason and Tom, I can count on them when there's a land acquisition, a survey, anything going on with the land over there, with the water, with the wetlands. I can count on Tom and Jason to ask the right questions. And I know those they can talk, the whole commission can talk about it. And it gets vetted. It gets vetted well. These guys work well together. I see no reason why you would want to break this up. They're a good fit. They're working well. There's no arguing going on. They sit and discuss and they vote unanimously. I don't know that I've ever seen them not vote unanimously on any issue. I find that they fit well together, and it would be wrong to break them up. Please do not support this resolution.
Diana Hess, County Councilor. Again, I have a problem with the process. In the resolution, it states that the new counselors apparently weren't sworn in when these appointments were made, these reappointments were made. Well, that's because our terms, those of us who were elected or reelected, did not start until January 1, 2023. The vote that we took as duly elected officials still seated in December at our December 6th public hearing to reappoint these individuals was totally appropriate, in my opinion. So reaching back and undoing a decision that was made by the previous duly elected council baffles me. And the other thing I'm concerned about is when we did originally appoint these individuals to their posts as at the redevelopment commission, we interviewed at least 3 people for those spots. As a full council, we interviewed these people, and then we, as a full council, selected these people, nominated them, appointed them. It was a very open process. So I'm hoping if this does go through, which I would propose that it doesn't because it doesn't make any sense to me, but that same process would be followed, and that would be very open, a decision-making process, because it hasn't been.
Right, us first, and then.
Happy to yield to it, but there's somebody else behind me.
Yeah. It was kind of a tie as to who had their hand up first.
Want to be the cleanup here, huh?
No. I appreciate your humor, Mr. Dieter. You know I always do, but this is a very serious matter. So I'm not doing anything but what I think is my responsibility as a citizen to ask this body whether or not you've considered carefully whether or not you have the authority to do this and whether or not the sloppiness of this writing, this resolution has been vetted, has been researched, and that you have a written opinion, that you have the legal authority to do this. And I say that because as Ms. has pointed out, the two gentlemen that are being discussed here today were duly appointed by a duly elected commissioner. Indiana Code 36-7-14-17 mandates that upon that appointment, commissioners to the redevelopment council shall serve 1-year terms. Shall. There is a provision in here that you've cited that you may terminate them at any time. My understanding of legalese, shall beats may anytime. And all you're going to do by passing this is mess up the cohesion of the development council that Dan talked about, and perhaps put us in jeopardy of paying even more than the $1 million+ in legal fees that we paid last year, just because you're sloppy.
Mr. Al?
Good morning, Deborah Durrell, 21677 Autumn Road, South Bend. I would like to give a shout out to Jason Critchlow and Tom Grip. I think when they were appointed, they raised the bar on the redevelopment commission dealings. I and several other members of the public had made a practice of attending the RTC meetings and noted for over a year how seldom a question was asked or how seldom the people came to those meetings prepared with understanding what the agenda items were. And the items were basically rubber stamped and passed. And while I fully acknowledge Mr. Shalio's amazing handling and processing of information, I do think that it's important that we have a mix of perspectives and experiences to make these decisions. And coming to a meeting without questions or without being informed and leaving it all up to one person essentially to cover everything, even though he was doing a great job and is doing a great job. I think that's like putting all our eggs in one basket. And so I do not understand what is going to happen with these two positions that the council then appointed these two people who have done such a good job. And it has spread to the other members of the commission as well, that we're seeing an improvement across the board of all the members because of the example that Jason and Tom have on that. So I'm concerned that the candidate is losing their two appointments, or that the council is just choosing to reappoint two new people. I think that's an important question, because if the commission is just deciding that they get to appoint all 5 positions, I think that's a big problem.
Dan Schetzel, 52245 Woods Edge Drive, Granger. I'm also councilman for council seat C. What happened in the 2022 general election? Well, Amy Drake, seat B, was in a 8% Democrat lean. She won. Joe Thomas was in about a 6% Republican lean, won by 8%. Mark Volker was in, I believe, an 8% Democrat lean, lost by less than 1%. I was in around a 12% Republican lean, won by more than 50%. I think the voters were very clear in November that they wanted a new majority. They wanted new ideas on the council. The council at that point was a lame duck council. We have a tradition in this country where lame duck bodies tend to do things that are opposite of what the new bodies would do. In other words, they disrespect the votes. They disrespect what the public has said, what the voters have said they want. And I believe this is an example. These appointments should have been left for the Republican majority in January because the voters made it clear that they wanted a change in direction. I am a councilman who has talked with commissioners and said, I believe we should change this. This is not what the voters voted for. They voted for Republican-led council to make these decisions. And I would thank the commissioners for having the courage to do this.
Jack Daly, 217 West Michigan Street in Carlisle. I heard about the shuffle in the deck of the chairs on the redevelopment commission. Haven't been as seamless in my attendance in the last year or two because I've seen less and less of any representative of my viewpoint that I could talk to. It's real dearth of representation for me. People as I think it's funny to watch Derek be part of the 2 against 1 that I saw happen here with the commissioners for years and years. And nothing we wanted, the folks who were really interested in protecting their way of life out near New Carlisle and not industrializing us and treating us like we're the sacrificial area for the county. Nobody was listening. And now it's from our town council down. I just wanted to throw in a little plug for participatory democracy with a small d, please, which is dying in this county. And that's shameful too. That's all I got to say.
Anyone else in the room wish to speak? If not, we'll go to the folks online. Cheryl?
Thank you. Good morning. Cheryl Nix, 17901 Sable Ridge Drive, Clay Township, speaking again. You know, I appreciate the council members showing up today to speak on this. But what I find interesting is I looked at the December 6th minutes from the county council meeting. And if you look at the minutes, it was a unanimous vote for the reappointment of Thomas Grip and Jason Critchlow. So then if you look at who is now sitting on the council, we have Mr. Fig, who voted yes at that time, Mr. Root, who voted yes at that time, Mr. Morton, who voted yes, Ms. Hess, who voted yes, and Mr. Catanzarite, who voted yes. So if you look at the newly elected members and the sitting council, we have 5 members of our sitting county council who approved this appointment. So I would hardly call it lame duck. Thank you.
Barry, you're next.
Mary Countryman, 52959 Timothy Road, New Carlisle, Indiana. There is a quote I found that says, part of being successful is to ask questions and to listen to the answers. What have these two, Jason and Tom, what have they done to deserve to be basically fired from their job? When did being a member of a political party become a reason to remove a person from their job? Are you afraid to be challenged? Are you scared to be asked questions? It just seems as if you want this whole big stacked party, you want to have things the way you want, you don't want anybody's input. And it's wrong. It's very wrong. Those people were in their jobs for a reason. They should remain in their jobs. Thank you.
Anyone else online wish to speak? Roy?
Roy Sines, 426 South Mead Street. I find this interesting along with the same thing with Portage Manor. You know, I understand that change happens and I think that's good and progressive from time to time so that we don't always have one stagnant idea mindset in the community. But I also remember, you know, with many of the people in the room having conversations about this whole concept of transparency and collaboration and the lack thereof once upon a time, not so long ago. And it doesn't seem like that's coming to fruition, which is kind of sad. But I hope that you guys will continue to try and work across whatever lines there are, whether it's party lines or county versus city lines. and do what's best for the community. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Commissioners, do you have anything to add? Motion for approval. Motion's been made to approve.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I lost my. So what put I on it, Carl? I put it in. Approval of AT&T contract is next. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Frank Potier with the Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth, offices on the 7th and 11th floor of this building. Before you is a contract to add 2 additional lines to an existing Centrex contract. There's a minimum of 11 lines per contract, which is why we need to add these two to one of our existing contracts to get that contract price. When they're out of contract, they're a little more than $500 per line, and this will actually bring that down from about a $3,000 bill to a $240 bill.
What are the lines for?
These are 2 lines at the Mishawaka Services Building for the ATM, and there's one other line over there that's required to be a Centrex line that can't be on our VoIP system.
Frank, can you clarify the reduction in cost, please?
Sure. So when they're out of contract, they're a little over $500 a line, and this brings it down then to $34 a line plus the associated fees.
Thank you. Any other questions on the AT&T contract? Hearing none. Approval, I'm moving for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Moving to infrastructure planning and growth, approval to approve the indemnity. I'm sorry, that's right past the assessor. Apologies. Oh, man. Assessor.
Mike Castellan, St. Joseph County Assessor with offices located on the 3rd floor. Before you is a contract to conduct a personal property audit that mirrors the contract we just completed in Mishawaka. To great success. The contract looks at compliance and education to the personal property process. And I'll open the floor for any questions.
And for an overall cost savings and benefits to the public is?
Well, I can't project that. Because it depends on whether and what the reporting is, but in the success to Penn Township, we saw addition of $783,000 to the tax rolls as a cost savings.
There's no cost, right?
But there's no cost for this to conduct this. It's just based out of.
This is based on the presentation we had.
And we also saw some taxpayers refunded for over reporting, so it does help in that area as well, so.
And I would like to compliment this young man here on the things he's bringing from his Penn days over to the entire county. It's light years of what we had and all the improvements and the people certified and what they should be. And the I can't predict, but I think the taxpayers will certainly appreciate all this work. Thank you, John. What about for approval? We have a motion to approve the contract agreement with Tax Management Associates.
Second.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Aye. Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now, moving on to infrastructure planning and growth, approval to approve the indemnity and consent to encroachment within the public right of way.
Sky Meadows, Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth, office on the 7th and 11th floor. What you have before you is this property came to us through the plat process. And as part of that plat process, there is right of way that they relinquished to the county. And within part of that right of way, there is a fence that has been there for some time. And instead of making them remove the fence, it's not a safety issue, it's outside the clear zone for vehicles and so forth, we're granting them this encroachment agreement that allows them the fence to remain unless for some reason the county needs to go in and use that right away. It also indemnifies the county from any issues that may occur. I'm happy to answer any questions and.
Any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
For approval.
Second.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? Commissioner Baxmeyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Under old business, approvals to advertise for bids for the PSAP Emergency Communications Tower.
Motion to take it off the table. Oh. Pete's here and I think
I thought they were ready.
Good morning, commissioners. I think I let Kara know. So we're waiting still on a one additional contract for geotech data to come in. It's probably a $3,000 or $4,000 contract, which is necessary so that the bids can be released. So bidders have that information when they submit their bids, and Julie is gathering that information. Julie Toby at the PSAP Center is gathering that. So I'm going to ask you to keep this on the table for now.
Thank you for the clarification, and we will leave it on the table. Roll business. Moving on to anybody else wish to make a public comment?
before you call Mr. Caruso, if I may, we've already gotten requests from public and from the media relating to Portage Manor being open. That's not accurate. Portage Manor residents are entitled to have visitors. But this is not an open facility that people can just walk in and wander around. You can't go on your own ghost hunt there. This is someone's home.
So more disinformation, that's what you're saying.
That was completely inaccurate, and it's not allowed under state regs. We can't just have people walking through a healthcare facility and someone's home. If you would like to go out to Portage Manor, I'm sure the staff can make arrangements. If you have a family member or a loved one, you're welcome to visit them, but you can't just walk through the building. Now, if you don't.
Joe, can you make sure you guys print that? Did you hear what you said? Okay. Well, thank you. Now, does anybody wish to make additional on topics that we haven't already? He did a minute 37. You got a whole clean slate, buddy.
Okay, when I wasn't aware of the topics I was aware of that rule at the council. I was not aware of that rule at the Board of Commissioners of not being able to speak on things that came up at this meeting. Can I speak on things that came up at this meeting? Because
typically that's the rule, is non-agenda items will be addressed during public comment. They have in the past allowed people to address certain things, so it's up to Mr. Baxmeyer.
Well, past county commissioner, a citizen of the month, I would say that would be okay.
Just for you, though, Dan.
thank you so much.
Great.
I was glad the Councilman Schatzel brought up that there's a change in control of the council from Democrat to Republican, that it was a Democrat controlled council that approved the appointments of the reappointments of Jason Critchlow and Tom Bright. And he says it should be the will of the new council, since it's now a Republican controlled council, that says who serves on the redevelopment commission. Again, I'm not aware of anybody who has made any complaints about the actions, the hard work that Jason and Tom have done. I'm not aware of any problems with Jason and Tom on there. And in that vote that was taken on December 6th, there were two Republican members on that council who are now on this council, who have no reason to change their vote from supporting him, supporting those two people, to now not supporting them unless somebody's in their ear telling them to vote the other way. This is just a useless action. It's a waste of our time, and it's politics, and I hate it. Thank you.
One more. If it's,
Not only does Mr. Shuttle's suggestion of lame duck.
Name and address. I'll give you the whole time back. I promise.
Thank you, Mike. Mike McManus, 51940 Lilac Road. I did not move in the last 30 minutes, so nor did I change my name, but I understand the reason why you did it. The suggestion that lame duck it is some sort of policy or whatever you termed it. It has zero basis in law. None. Absolutely none. People have asked, why are we doing these things around here? You know exactly why you're doing it. It's naked, partisan, election denying, political hackery. That's first point. Second, your hypocrisy is just astonishing. Amy Comey Barrett. Does that name ring a bell? Post-elected, she was rushed through in 30 days to become a justice of the Supreme Court of America. And now you're complaining about two competent people serving all of us citizens. I just find that astonishing. And as Dan said, we're pretty sick of it. You're turning what used to be a county where cooperation, sure, there were always political differences, but where cooperation was the buzzword and civility, and you are turning this into a zoo. And don't think that we're not watching you, and don't think that we're going to hold you accountable for it, sir. Hypocrisy and an attack on our democracy are not going to happen.
okay.
I was the last one.
All right. Just say it.
Deborah? No verse today?
Next time.
Oh, we're still public.
One up there. Oh, no.
Mary, it's your turn.
Mary Countryman, 52959 Timothy Road, New Carlisle. If a person's intent is truly for good and not for their own benefit, why wouldn't problems be addressed? Why wouldn't you help to correct problems cited instead of using those specific cited items as a reason to close down what was created to help those less fortunate? That I do not understand. If you're going to be using situations that are not good and holding them in your back pocket to pull out and say, yep, this is why we're shutting you down, instead of, if you went in there, why didn't you help it? Why didn't you fix it? Why are the hunters illegally hunting? Why are they not being cited as the bad person here? Why isn't that situation corrected instead of basically putting the blame on innocent residents? I've lost a lot of faith in a lot of people today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mark Danzeroy, 2022 Oak Park Drive, South Bend, Indiana, County Council District G. Just a point to make regarding, I know we've already talked on some of these subjects, I haven't had a chance to, but just to maybe respond back to Mr. Schetzel. We've always worked as a council to be very transparent. When we were in control of Democrats, we always were inclusive of everybody from every party. We didn't have meetings with certain members and we didn't exclude others. So the insinuation or the discussion, you said you had a conversation with President Baxmeyer about the removal of these members because we were a lame duck council, indicates to me that you were having a conversation with them and asking for a special favor in order for some new RDT members to be appointed, which troubles me quite a bit. the assertion that we were a lame duck council making appointments, we should wait to the next year. We have a responsibility, lame duck or not, we have a responsibility to make these appointments when the terms end on these positions. And these are for positions that are unpaid. These people volunteer for it, so we had an obligation to appoint somebody, to reappoint somebody, or appoint somebody new. And as was stated, it was a unanimous decision, so we thought we had full support of the council, and nobody on the previous council had indicated to us, and I'm assuming Mr. Root knew he was going to be in a position of power from January 1, never came to us and indicated he was not happy with that decision. So to insinuate that we were trying to make a lame duck decision just to ramrod something down somebody's throat, I disagree with you on that, and I'm disappointed in that. And the fact you've had conversations with Mr. Baxter, he's acting on today, concerns me a lot. Are you having those conversations? Are other members of the council having those conversations? We're not included in those conversations. I've not been contacted today. I asked you carefully remove your RDC members. And I hope you come to us, and we don't have to have these kind of dialogues at meetings, Commissioner. I hope we can work together as we have in the past.
I will just say that my door is always open, and you're all councilmen are free to and encouraged to contact us, any of the three of us. With that, we have a motion to recess. Oh, wait a minute. No, I lost that. I just want to remind everybody, since it is new, that our evening meeting next week will be on Wednesday, February 22nd at 6 o'clock. That's Tuesday. There is a appreciation for all of the citizens, youth, business. You guys get the invites on celebration dinner. Ah. I got a seat.
I have to watch that.
It's good to be taped so you can watch it later. Everybody's welcome. With that, do we have a motion to recess? So move.
Second.
Commissioner Fleming, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Dieter, how do you vote? And Commissioner Becker.
Thanks, John Murphy.